Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everyone. This holiday season, we're going back to The Matrix. Directed by Lana Wachowski.
This is gonna be out by like New Year's for some people.
No. This will be good to go. We don't need any tangents. We don't need any digressions. I think, obviously,
I'll be the judge of that.
The Matrix Resurrections, I think, is a pretty simple film that speaks for itself. And whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it's up to the individual. But it's not that complicated. Do you think so, my co-host Matt Garingo?
Why didn't they just build the Matrix out of Neos? Checkmate.
You seem particularly triggered right now. Can you tell me what happened?
I've had dreams that aren't just dreams.
Full spoilers, so if you haven't seen
I was trying to
The
think
Matrix
of
Resurrections, go watch it and then come back and listen to this.
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing here if you haven't seen it? Are you out of your fucking mind?
Regardless of whether or not we end up positive on it, you should watch it. Matt, what'd you think?
Good movie.
I agree.
All right, bye everyone.
Yeah, I think people are cowards about it. Not everyone.
But I haven't seen that many like negative response. People seem to be responding very positively to it.
Yeah.
Even people that like didn't like the Matrix sequels.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that there's like an inevitable backlash to Resurrections coming.
I think the more like, okay, so the last 2 weeks I've not nostalgic, but I've been a little curious about like, what's the old YouTube film community up to? You know, the ones I used to watch like pretty regularly, like 5 to 8.
Is it all them like tearing their hair out and like, what did you do, Matrix?
Well, because like some of these people I know I'm just not gonna have the same opinion about stuff with. So like I even checked out a little bit of the Far From Home reviews and No Way Home reviews, and people were like, "Wow, it's like the best blockbuster of the year. Like it's the most fun you'll have." No, it's not perfect, but yada yada yada, right? And the way they just talk about certain films, I don't understand why Matrix Resurrections is like the line so many people drew. We're like, yeah, it's a little sillier, but like, so what? Like, this wasn't a problem when fucking Tony Stark and Doctor Strange were cracking jokes like to each other amidst an impending alien invasion.
Are people complaining about the jokes?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, you know, I didn't expect The Matrix to be a comedy, and it's like, it's not. There's jokes in it.
I mean, I will say, it's a comedy for, like, the first, like, 15 minutes.
It's,
like...
I've seen a lot of comparisons to, like, Gremlins 2 and New Nightmare, and I don't want people to get too married to those ideas specifically, but I think those are pretty good touchstones for what the film's going for.
Yeah, it's definitely got elements of that. It also really did feel kind of like fucking, like, 21 Jump Street, the movie, where, like, they literally sit down with, what's his name from Parks and Recs? And he's like, yeah, you know, we're recycling old ideas because we're out of new ones. And he's like, oh, he's describing the movie in a meta way. But this, like, even gets more meta because they straight up say Warner Brothers at one point.
Yeah, Warner Brothers is going to do this with or without you. Which we know to be true.
Which is a wild thing to just throw out there in this movie.
And that they let Lana Wachowski do that, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I bet you, like, an executive is like, ha, so meta. And then it's like, you're letting Lana say that you basically forced her back into doing this because it was going to be either her or someone else. Because, like, the other than his line is like, well, don't we have a deal where they can't do that? And it's like, yeah, but they're not going to listen. Like, which is like, wow.
Yeah, I think people were also kind of, like, shocked by like this, like people called it a really cynical movie. It's like, it's just telling you like what it is, and
I didn't find it cynical at all, honestly.
I didn't find it that cynical either. Like, it is like, it's very much like you fucking like, it's cynical about the right things. It's not, I don't think it's a film that's like denigrating the audience or anything like that.
Yeah,
like it's very much a love letter to like the artists and like the people that like truly engage with the art forms. But among many other things, as we all discussed.
Well, all right. So when I watched it the other night, the review I posted on Letterboxd was just all caps me going, "What the hell is wrong with you people?" And the main thing was because like all the takes leading into it I didn't find them to be true at all.
Oh, like it's so crazy. You're gonna have to watch it multiple times to digest it.
Yeah, like look, here's the thing. Like, yes, it is crazy. Yes, I will have to watch it multiple times to really like to get like to the layers of it, you know. But it is significantly easier to follow than the the other two Matrix sequels. I would
completely agree. Like, I was actually kind of shocked, and I think people, like, we're talking about how like people try to rewrite their experience and reviews with The Force Awakens, right? And I think people are trying to do that with the Matrix sequels. Now we're like, this film doesn't have the quality of filmmaking as the other Matrix films, even the sequels, which I've always liked, by the way, and I have no complicated relationship with. You know, it's like you can have complicated relationships with art, you know? Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Your tastes change and evolve. You could have liked them back then and disliked them now. Like, it's totally fine to feel that way. You're wrong, but it's totally fine to feel that way.
Well, I think it's that thing of someone pointed out online. I can't remember who did this, but someone pointed out how like there are certain segments of gamers who aren't really good at understanding why they like the games they like.
I'm willing to bet that's why those same people don't like this movie too much.
Yeah, well, there's the mentality of like good games are hard games. I like good games that for the thing I like was hard, you know? And it's like that's not necessarily true. And I think there's a mentality among certain segments of the film viewing public that's like, smart movies are good movies. Movies I like are good, therefore movies I like are smart, right? And I think there were people that were initially dismissive of the Matrix sequels, and then people kind of pointed out, like, actually they're dealing with like a lot of heavy ideas. And then people have just kind of given in, have been like, well, okay, if it's about all those ideas, then it's good, right? And I think that's like, you know, it's okay to be like, to recognize that the Matrix sequels are doing smart things and still not liking them, right? Like, that's totally fine. And I think some people aren't good at doing that. And then I think some of the Matrix Resurrections responses has been like both a mea culpa for how the other sequels were treated, but also kind of trying to be like, look, guys, I'm up to snuff on all this deep philosophical shit, and I did not get that out of Matrix Resurrections. I don't know. The response has been really strange.
Yeah, like, thankfully on my Twitter feed, like, the people that I follow, all of the people that listen to this podcast, the 5 of you, everyone seems to have enjoyed it to a degree.
Yeah. I'll just say, like, I guess the big takeaway, the one thing I just 100% didn't feel was that it was difficult to follow.
I didn't either. Right? So I saw this like, in a theater, the Chinese theater in Hollywood, and masked up, vaxxed, we're all good to go, hopefully. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know, right? But the crowd was like, half the crowd was into it, and then the moment it ended, someone was like, can I go into the Matrix and unwipe that from my memory? And I almost started throwing fists.
There's always that guy, you know? There's always that fucking person.
But also, like... again, I'm just going to hop to the end really quick here. When Trinity remembered who she was, and she was like, my name is Trinity, someone cheered, and then other people joined in. So, like, yeah, I think that's a pretty, like, apt summation of the general consensus right now.
I think this one is going to be a, like, kind of sleeper hit among the general public, you know? Like, I think the average person will end up liking it.
And also, and I like, just really quick, I also want to say that it's just, like, a straight-up really entertaining movie all the way through. Like, yes. I didn't expect that, I guess.
It's the most, like, straightforwardly entertaining Matrix movie since the original, you know? Like, in terms of, like, when we're going to have certain philosophical debates, the movie isn't going to stop for fucking 10 minutes while we have a discussion.
Yeah, there's also, like, ticking clock elements to it, too, which probably makes it, like, harder for them to do that in this film.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's a moment where Neo's freaking out because he's not ready to wake up quite yet. And they're like, oh, we're losing him. Does he know about the mirror? Hang on, let me put my hand through the mirror. Hey, we got to go. Like, what? Let's wrap this up, you know?
Well, it's funny where it's like, I would say that the first, until Neo gets out of the Matrix, it's like I could see that part being a little confusing because there's a lot of stuff being thrown at you.
Reboots itself 4
and
times.
I think the movie does. Yeah, I think the movie does a very successful job of getting you to a point where you're like, wait, is this like a meta movie? And is this guy who thinks he's Neo really losing his mind? Mm-hmm. You know? Like, having gone in, I really went in completely blind with this movie.
I mean, apart from the trailers, I didn't know, like, anything.
Yeah. And so I think it's a testament that, like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, is it gonna be that? Which, because also I was hearing, like, it being kind of divisive and stuff like that, and I was like, I can understand if that's divisive for people. And then at a certain point, it's like, nope, it's another Matrix movie. And, which I was, like, cool with. But, like, other than that, like, after that, it becomes very clear what's going on, for the most part. Right? And even when there are, like, massive lore dumps, there's usually something else going on. Yeah. Right? Like, I think, like, the one of the best ones is when Neil Patrick Harris is giving his whole villain speech, and there's the bullet just slowly going towards Trinity. And it's like, you might not know what the fuck Neil Patrick Harris is talking about, but you do know that a bullet is heading towards Trinity.
I mean, that's, like, such another great example of, like, the ticking clock element to this film, where it's like, you can't just have the characters sit around and monologue like in Matrix Reloaded, which, you know, like, I do love in that movie, but that movie does also, like, stop often for me. And this one didn't, like, at all on first viewing, at least.
I did not have a chance to rewatch it, so I do have to have the Wikipedia open just so I can get everything straight, because there's a lot happens in this movie. Wikipedia plot synopsis is written out of order, by the way, which is a little frustrating.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it's doing that, like, Thomas Anderson is a successful video game developer, and then the next part is about the opening scene. Which, I guess that makes sense if you're writing a plot synopsis, but hey. Because, man, I had that fucking opening was wild.
Yeah, you know, and, like, this is another thing the Force Awakens rewriting of reviews that you like to bring up. I think that's definitely happening here again, because it's like, well, The Matrix Resurrections is just the same plot as the first one. It is nowhere, like, near the plot of the first one. It is the first one for, like, these opening scenes, and then it does end with Neo having to save someone. And that's it. That's, like, the comparison right there. And it is very intentionally, like, not just riffing on the first one to, like, look at how, remember these things you liked? It's saying that the system's broken if it has to be repeating things. Like, it's not just Ghostbusters, I guess.
I think our mutual friend, Abby, described this movie as, like, a coda, almost. Like kind of like the Godfather coda, you know? And that makes a lot of sense. Although I believe they've been talking about the hopes that this leads to, this is the beginning of a new trilogy.
I'm sure the producers think that. I don't know about Lana Wachowski. This one does kind of feel like she said everything she needs to say, which we'll try to parse out here.
But there's enough there that it feels like the door's open.
That I do agree with. However, on the red carpet, she was asked about that very subject, that this potentially leading to a new trilogy, and she just kind of playing it off, and then she's like, my producer's right over there, but no. So I mean, that could have just been her playing coy, you know?
Yeah.
But
Keanu did say in an interview, though. He did drop the word new trilogy in an interview.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey. I mean, they set up a lot here. It really did feel like they were setting up a lot. Now, there's definitely a self-contained story, of course, but, like, that door's they definitely left that door open.
Yeah. Before we get too into it, let me just say I think this is one of the best Hollywood blockbusters of the last, like, at least since Fury Road. I found this like an incredibly fulfilling theater experience. Like, the moment it ended, I was like, 1 billion stars. This is the best movie I've ever seen, and it's not, but I stand by the 1 billion star statement.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm willing to go that far with it.
Okay, I fucking love this movie. I've been playing kind of, like, I've been reserving myself a little bit, I fucking loved this movie so much. I was hoping to enjoy it as much as Reloaded, and I'm in love. I'm in love with it.
I think I was hoping for Lana Wachowski to go full Mad Max Fury Road. I think I'm just going to be chasing that Fury Road high the rest of my life. You know, like, no movie's ever going to be that good ever again. Because, like, I think other people point, I think the action in this is serviceable, but it's not, like, crazy, you know?
I appreciated the attempts to do something different, and I think it paid off sometimes, and other times she's just very, very clearly, in my opinion, much more interested in, like, Neo and Trinity trying to hold hands again. Like, that's more thrilling to me than, like, a lot of the action in this, which I do think is, like, at least foundationally solid.
Yeah, all that stuff landed. I felt the, like, Neo Trinity stuff. It was just like, you know, there was no equivalent of, like, the Burly Brawl scene, you know, where it's like which is a scene that, like, kind of doesn't work, but is also still kind of awesome, you know. Like, I was hoping to see that, like, overreaching again, like them try, like Lana trying to do something that, like, oh, we're just not there yet, but in, like, 10 years it's gonna be the norm, right?
Yeah,
and there's not really any of that.
And there's already a lot of defensive criticism, which I honestly do subscribe to, but I will concede some stuff in a second, where people are saying, like, well, you know, the point isn't the action this time. Like, it really is about, like, this love story and this, like, heart, like, message to humanity. And I agree with all of that, but I also agree with people on the opposite side where they're saying, like, okay, but that doesn't protect the action. Like, we can still have criticism about the action, and it's like, yeah, there's valid criticisms here, I feel. Even if she's not striving to change the game in that sense.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I would agree that almost, like, it, like, I'm sure the action kind of not being as revolutionary is the point almost, you know? I'm saying, I'm shocked that more people aren't coming out, like, leading with that, where it's like, and I guess maybe that's just where we're at as a culture, where, like, we don't expect movies to wow us in terms of their action anymore. You know,
like
who is going in the Spider-Man fucking whatever the fuck, being like, oh, I can't, like, when I remember being a kid after Spider-Man 2, I'm like, Jesus Christ, how the fuck is the Sandman fight gonna look? You know, like, that's gonna be fucking incredible. And now it's like the Doc Ock fight in the new one's probably gonna look just like whatever it looks like when he's punching the Green Goblin.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, just a reminder to listeners, we haven't seen No Way Home yet. I think we both generally know what happens for the most part in that movie. We'll get around to it. And that is something that's quite sad, which is also maybe why I find myself going to bat more for Snake Eyes' G.I. Joe origin story. Because it's like, even though the action's not, like, outstanding, it's like, look what they did. Like, this is cheaper than $100 million, and it looks so much fucking better than a bunch of stuff. It's color graded properly, too. The environments are, like, distinct. You get a feeling of the textures of the world. Like, I was just really shocked that, like, how did they do that? Why did they do that for a G.I. Joe movie? I don't give a shit about G.I. Joe.
Think there is such a problem with just, like, basic film language not being understood by most of the public, you know? And I'm not, like, saying, like, in depth or anything like that, or even, like, if you listen to a podcast maybe about how action scenes are done. Like, I'm just talking about, like, it feels like kids should know what the Kuleshov effect is.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like, a very basic concept, and no one understands it, so I don't think people know what they should be asking from their movies anymore. You know? It's so much less, like... And then, if you don't know, all you're going to ask for is, like, lore stuff and character stuff. And the Marvel movies deliver on that in spades, usually. But, you're not going to the movie to see, like, oh, I can't wait to see how they're going to beat this villain, you know? Like, it's why the villain problems, like, is such a thing in the Marvel universe. It's not just because they're boring. It's because, like, the action, like, it's not like when they start fighting, it's, like, an interesting fight scene, you know? Can you think of the unique fight scenes in the MCU?
It's the first Avengers culmination, because, like, I mean, that movie just, like, on a machine level
Yeah, but that's
works.
just them versus a horde. Like, that's different. I'm talking about, like, a one-on-one, like, or even, like, a team going up against... Because here's the thing. I think there's very few differences between the Ironmonger fight at the end of Iron Man 1 and the confrontation with Thanos in Infinity Game in terms of an action scene.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't
Infinity
think
Game,
the action in those last couple Avengers is like anything to write home about.
It's like one where like it's like anime power levels are higher. Thanos throws a moon, right? But how is that different than when the Ironmonger threw a car?
Yeah.
You know, like,
and they're both bad. Like that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, look. Well, it's one thing if like the Ironmonger was just like, okay, it gets the story going, but you should be doing something different. By where it's like it's almost more exciting when you have a scene like in there's a scene in Infinity War where he just replaces the element gun with like a bubble gun.
Yeah,
right?
And it's like
which is like better than any of the action in the movie.
And I will give credit to the Winter Soldier still for like it's not like once you like really start watching movies to a degree, you're like, oh yeah, this isn't like anything truly special, but it's like good for like a Bourne riff. Like it's very clearly aping that style.
Yeah.
And like I've seen it done a lot worse.
They built the action around Captain America using his shield.
Yeah, the shot reverse shot of the fight. It's like, okay, he's shooting at me, shield. Okay, he's getting up close. He's trying to get the shield away. Knife. Okay, block the knife. Like it. There's like an evolving element to it where they're stripping stuff away from the characters. Like, I know people really cooled on that movie, and I totally fucking get it. But that one still really works for me.
It's very basic, but it's like still leagues ahead of some of the other Marvel stuff.
Even like my beloved Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I don't go to those for the movies or for the action, I should say. Unfortunately, and that's not like a defense. It's very damning, but I do. I really wish that the action was like stronger in those.
Yeah, I mean, I think that can be said for basically all of them. Like, and I think maybe like Homecoming is one of the few times I remember actually kind of liking the action in it. Which is why I think I gave the new Spider-Man such a pass for a long time.
I don't know about like the physical fights.
I like the first Vulture fight on the truck.
Oh, where he's chasing the truck. Yeah. That's fun.
And then I like the rescue in the Washington.
Yeah, that's
Monument.
the best one. That's the best like Spider-Man like hero scene in the franchise. Yeah.
It's arguably the best hero moment in the MCU.
When I say franchise, I do mean MCU, not like Spider-Man in general. Look, I promise we're gonna go back to Matrix Resurrections because this franchise monopoly shit is a point of discussion in the film. But like, looking back at like the MCU Spider-Man stuff, like when I saw the No Way Home trailer, I was like, wow, that actually kind of looks like fun, and it totally is hitting the nostalgia button. But I'm not made of stone. But I also shouldn't be thinking that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 looks like fucking Avatar compared to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is a bad film, and I've seen some of you motherfuckers try to reclaim, like, look, whatever, enjoy what you want, leave me out of this. That I do not agree with that at all. But that movie looks like it has, like, a color palette and, like, contrast and lighting. And they just don't do that for the Marvel stuff anymore.
And there's definitely more of that here,
Oh, and the Matrix Resurrections looks gorgeous and fantastic.
It's just, I think there's like, why put the effort into like a big action scene these days? The audience isn't even going to notice it, Like, I kind of get like a certain, like, just giving into the machine on that level, It kind of makes me want to revisit Jupiter Ascending to see what the action was in that.
I think the action was like really fun in that.
Yeah, because the weird thing, it's like of all this stuff, the Wachowskis are like excellent action filmmakers, And it's so weird to come out of this and like if I was ranking things in it, I wouldn't rank the action super high. It's just odd, Like that's the one thing maybe I went into this going like, maybe I won't understand it, but at least the action will be kind of crazy.
And now it's like, well, I understood it, but the action wasn't that crazy.
Yeah, but it's strange. I'm not even going like it was terrible. It was entirely serviceable, and it worked, and it didn't like detract from the story in any way. It was just something of the things I was expecting and not expecting, I wasn't expecting that.
One thing I did like about the action, I would say loved, is the Matrix Resurrections has this idea about like, all right, well, you had your revolution. The old guard is frankly just tired. They want to live peacefully as they can before their time is up in this world. And how it addresses that, it's like, yeah, that's like a valid feeling to have, but you shouldn't like subjugate the younger generations to that same thing because they still have their lives to live. And I didn't expect the movie to get into any of that. I don't know why. The Matrix series is a series about revolution. I shouldn't have not thought that, right? And so the action with Neo and Trinity is much more defensive now. They don't use guns in this entire film.
Yeah,
Everyone else does, and it's really fucking cool. We'll get into that. But Neo and Trinity, like, they play much more defensively. And not that Neo doesn't also, like,
well, I think
kick
that's
people
also
in the face, but...
I think for the most part, there's no gun play from Neo in the Matrix sequels.
Oh, yeah, because he's God.
Yeah.
Although here he's not God again yet.
Yeah, he's half a god.
Yeah. oh, yeah, we'll get into that.
But, what was I going to say? You maybe would have been more prepared for the stuff about the different factions and all that stuff if you had played Matrix Online between the year 2005 and 2009.
Oh, yeah, let's get into that.
Which I took a lot of notes on. And I should have you know, I only took one note on Matrix Resurrections because I was trying to just watch the movie. And that one note in all caps at the top of my paper is just Chad.
Oh, yeah, Chad Stahelski.
I wrote down the moment that happened.
Yeah. Chad playing Chad. Which is like, that's the level of meta that this movie's going for.
Yeah.
And that doesn't inherently make it good, but it is something I appreciate in this specific instance. Chad Stahelski, for people that don't know, is the director of the John Wick franchise. He's up to direct a bunch of action shit because it turns out he's really fucking good at it. And he started as one of Keanu Reeves' stunt doubles on the Matrix trilogy.
Yes.
And is an action choreographer in his own right, working with the group 8711, which do the John Wicks and basically a bunch of stuff. The best action you've seen in the last couple of years is probably they're responsible for. Okay.
Hey, why did John Wick 4 get pushed back by a year?
This is another thing about the action. I think Keanu's just getting a little older.
But I thought the movie's like basically finished.
Really?
That's what I had heard. Did they not start filming? Am I hearing the wrong things?
I don't know, actually. I've been like not pursuing any information on that because I'm like, oh fuck yeah, John Wick, I'm in. Like that's all I need. But let me see. I don't know. That's concerning. I'm worried about them now. Huh.
A production officially wrapped October 2021.
Okay.
Now that there's entirely it's possible that how do I say this? That like I think the COVID pandemic, we don't recognize how much it's kind of messing with the film industry a little bit. I think you could definitely tell watching this movie that COVID might have affected the production of Matrix 4. So maybe they're looking at their footage that they've shot so far and they realize, hey, maybe we should shoot some more stuff.
Maybe, yeah. That's too bad. Fuck,
it's just strange.
Holy year.
Did some algorithm tell them to do it?
I mean, maybe, but I don't know.
It's a weird thing to announce like the day after Matrix drops, too.
Because there was a world where both Matrix and John Wick 4 were going to drop on the same day. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember that. It was a very brief moment where it looked like that was going to happen.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna die and go to heaven. Like, I was so excited. Little did I fucking know. Yeah, that's a damn shame, because the stacked cast for John Wick 4 is, like, legendary at this point.
Clancy Brown's in it.
Clancy Brown. Lawrence Fishburne returns because him and Keanu Reeves are going to do Class Warfare. Donnie Yen, Rina Sawayama, Bill Skarsgård, Scott Adkins, Hiroyuki Sanada. Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, sorry. I'm super excited about John Wick 4.
Yeah, I mean, who isn't? It was a weird announcement.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, it's got pushed back by another year. Which it's a weird, I don't know why, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Like, I'm hoping just the stupid algorithm told them to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, we want to get maximum number of people in the theater, and we're not going to be at pre-COVID levels by the initial release date. But a full year is a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, look, if that is the case, that's understandable. Because you remember when like people were like, "Oh yeah, COVID will only be around for a couple months," and then you could see all the studios pulling releases. Like it started happening like really fast at a certain point. That's when I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, all right, the numbers people are saying like this is probably going to go badly for a while. I think we're gonna see that again.
Yeah.
After the holidays, unfortunately.
Well, this will probably affect Matrix's box office, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's probably not going to be a major hit. Like
I think we talked about it last time too, but like apart from Spider-Man and No Time to Die in America, movies didn't make money. Even the ones that got to like 400 million didn't really make money. And I think also, apologies if you hear rain, it just started fucking pouring outside right now. But like movies are not going to do good on any level right now, which is probably why you need the day and date stuff again. But also, don't surprise your talent with that information. Talk to them first next time.
That's what.
That's the problem with what happened, not this fucking debate about theaters versus streaming. That's a whole other argument. Sorry, it's just there's a lot going on in the world, and it's worth mentioning.
Well, it looks like the next three. The other thing is the next three Marvel movies are all established characters. You know.
Yeah, and this year they really weren't. I guess Black Widow, but I mean,
but Black Widow did the
the
simultaneous
stands.
releasing too.
Yeah.
So, I wonder how much that will affect future box office, which is a little sad. But hey, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about Matrix Online.
Oh yeah, here. Do you want to say the big thing?
No, I got a few big things to talk about.
Oh fuck. Okay.
So Matrix Online was an MMORPG that you could play between the year 2005 and 2009. It lasted 4 years. A little sad, but hey, they tried. And that was the weird thing where I think it's related to this, where post Matrix 3, the Wachowskis really doubled down on like video games being the future of the Matrix, you know? And you can see why they would do that, you know? Like, what is there a better medium to explore the nature of like choice and free will than video games, right?
Yeah.
And I think especially lately, you can see other people that picked up the ball of that as like a theme and just ran with it in video game circles, you know? I can't tell you how many games have been like about that. The Matrix games never really got there. One of the things Matrix Online was promoted as was it was going to have an ongoing story, more so than other MMORPGs at the time. There was always like factions and stuff like that and basic events, but this was like, no, there's a fucking plot in this MMORPG. And I wrote down some of it because it's very interesting. The first thing that happened in the Matrix Online was called the Race to Find the One. And that was a race between the different factions of the Matrix to find Neo's residual self-image, which had shattered across the Matrix, right? And there's a big point in this era that the machines have not returned Neo's body. Because that's like an overarching thing. That the machines never returned Neo's body, but also have never admitted to destroying it and recycling it like other bodies. Correct?
Right.
That ends up being a big thing, and it kind of plays into the plot of this film. Oh, by the way, this stuff was considered canon. I'm not sure how canon it is now, but it was like up until very recently.
I'm willing to bet it is still incredibly canon, which is frankly like mind-blowing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of lore dumps that like some of it contradicts what happens in this game in the new Matrix, but some of it doesn't. So there's also like multiple factions in the game. There's of course Zion. There's the machines, but the machines are no longer openly antagonistic to Zion. In fact, some of them are, they just keep the peace quo, which means, like, if you're from Zion and you violate the peace, like, of course you're going to be a target, but they're not going to stop you from getting people out of the Matrix. There's the Merovingians faction, which is running around, and then there's like Neo worshippers, and then the best of all, the Cypherites, which are worshippers of Cypher, who think that it's actually wrong to keep unplugging people from the Matrix, and that they should be forcing people back into the Matrix. So there's like all these different factions running around. So all the different factions, there was a race to see which factions could collect the most of Neo's residual self-image. Post this, there ended up being this appearance of red-eyed agents, which were agents that just attacked anyone. They didn't seem to listen to orders from the machines. And they were able to get a hold of Neo's RSI fragments and make their own, like, Neo crossed with agents beings. So, like, they have their own one now. There was a thing called Nightfall, in which the werewolves and the vampires under the Merovingian, like, tried to overthrow him. And now you can make... Basically what this means is now you can have an avatar that is part vampire and part werewolf in the Matrix.
Oh, God. Fuck yeah.
That's all that really was. Now, here is the big one. This is the one I think you wanted me to start with. An event called Hunt for Morpheus. Morpheus, who was a character in Matrix Online, was very frustrated with the machines refusing to return Neo's body or answer any questions. So he decided to step things up a bit, and he set off bombs throughout the Matrix. Now, they're not like explosion bombs, but they are bombs that will make blue pills see the code in the Matrix and make huge swaths of people wake up instantly, which could affect, the machine's power supply. This made everyone unhappy. And basically everyone was after Morpheus at a certain point, because this was fucking up the truce. 7 days into the Hunt for Morpheus event, Morpheus is assassinated in-game. Canon, Morpheus is dead. He was assassinated by a guy called the Assassin, who we don't really know who he's working for. It comes out later that he was probably working for the Merovingian, and he's like a corrupt program. But his goal ends up being like he wanted to destroy the whole Matrix. Another fun thing is that the Assassin also killed Agent Skinner, who was the liaison between machine-allied red pills and other factions. So after that, he got replaced with Agent Pace, a new form of agent, which basically means now there are female agents in the Matrix. So diversity win.
Well, they're girl bosses.
Yeah, girl bosses. I mean, hey, I'm surprised there wasn't anything like that in this, but hey.
A little bit. Nothing like to that extent, but the boardroom scene.
And now, I will say, after the death of Morpheus, Matrix Online it never took off the way it was, so I think there was a lot of problems. There's a lot of, like, back and forth infighting amongst the different factions. The Assassin is eventually killed. The Cypherites attempt to, like, do kind of what Morpheus did, but in reverse, and set off these bombs that will trap people in the Matrix. Didn't work out. But the other big thing is that there's a faction controlled by a guy called the Major, who's a program. He's like a military leader. Now, the Major is the RSI of the Sentinel that led the attack against Zion. And he has separated himself. He has gone into exile basically on his own with all the other Sentinels that still want a war. And he has been running his own kind of like operations within the Matrix, trying to restart the war between Zion and the machines. Now, at a certain point, Zion violated the truce between Zion and the machines. They were building like EMP stockpiles that they weren't supposed to. And the Cypherites found it out, let the machines know, and so a second war between machines started. The last big thing is that there were rumors that Morpheus was actually still alive. A message came out from someone claiming to be Morpheus, and he sent a message that said Neo was not dead. At this point, a lot of other stuff happened, but I didn't understand any of it, so I didn't write it down. But at a certain point, the Matrix Online just shut down because it had a very low user base. I think by the end, about 500 players were using it.
Oh, that's tough. I mean, that's kind of an interesting way to track like the interest in the Matrix, like as a property.
Yeah.
You know, which is unfortunate because, as we've discussed, they still own. I should also mention that someone after the showing I went to also mentioned, man, I've been after this. No one's gonna want to touch that IP ever again. And it's like, I kind of hope that's true, just because I feel like this is Lana's.
Isn't it great when you hear people say IP out in public?
Yeah, that was like really disheartening. And you know, I got to shout out my friend Andrew Salazar, who I saw it with. Was the one who really overheard that and almost made me vomit on the way out of the theater.
Now, why is Andrew Salazar a coward? Because he should have punched that person.
Yeah, come on, Andrew.
So,
run him over.
Yeah, that's what was up in the Matrix world for the longest time.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so that's all that stuff might still be canon.
At the very least, the death of Morpheus. Now, I am glad that they didn't straight up say, "Oh yeah, Morpheus was assassinated in the in between time from your reawakening Neo," and they're just like, "Yeah, his blind faith got him and other people killed."
Yeah.
And I can imagine that particularly upsetting people, but that's also very in track with Morpheus and the series. It's been very critical of having blind faith in things or people.
Yes.
But I also haven't heard people criticizing that decision, so I guess it worked.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to talk about the opening scene of this movie?
Well, it's the first scene from The Matrix, except it's not. And we're introduced to Jessica Henwick's Bugs character, who I think is the greatest new character in film history.
Yes. Bugs is tons of fun. I can't tell you, like, the watching this scene in the next sequence was just wild the first time. I gotta say that. Of just, like, this first scene, I was genuinely like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, I got a little scared for a second because it was just throwing, like, everything at you.
There was one word they kept saying, and I can't remember what it was now. Did they say, was it module? Was that what they were saying?
Yeah, I think they're I don't know why they pronounce
modal.
It this way.
A modal.
Modal, yeah, but that's module. So maybe it's just like the Matrix version of that word, whatever. But I'm also like, it's module. There's a word for that.
Well, it means something else too. Like, that word does mean something else related to computers.
Okay. See, I'm not that smart, so I didn't know
I'm
that.
not smart enough to say it. But yeah, it would have been easier to say model. Because I think it would have gotten the basic point across.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a little while to figure out what this scene even was and how it was connected to the main narrative. I'll give it. I got to say that was like the only time I was really struggling to follow it, though, and not struggling in a like I was frustrated, just kind of like I don't know how these pieces are going to come together. It was kind of like, it was like fascinating, and it was fun. And it was a weird. I think if you're talking about hitting the same beats of the first movie, I think it was a good way of kind of going back to that, like, what is the Matrix type vibe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And which is something very difficult to get back to. And like the fact that it even got close to that was kind of fascinating.
I also really liked the look of this opening stuff because like they do their best to like kind of recreate it moment to moment, but also now with like this was filmed digitally. This was not shot in film.
Yeah.
And you do have to work a little extra hard to get digital up to par. And again, we made it clear, not a pro digital, not pro film, just do whatever, right? To the best of your abilities. But I like how like wet and like disgusting this all is again. I'm like, oh yeah, we're fucking back. And the rest of the movie's not like that. And that's fine. Because it's not trying to be. The Matrix is doing something different now. And it's very clear that these repeating events are like they're elements of a broken system.
Mm-hmm.
Now that being said, this opening does throw a lot at you. It's like, okay, here's the reintroduction of the Matrix. I saw some people compare it to Terminator Genesis, and I genuinely believe those people should not be hired to write film criticism ever again.
Yeah, that's a bad take.
Yeah.
That's a very bad take.
So it's re-uploading the original Matrix scene, and then it's commentary on the original Matrix scene saying, wait, something's not right. That leads into the introduction of one of the new protagonists and her crew. And then we're introduced to the new Morpheus, who is stuck in limbo as Agent Smith. That all happens within like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's a lot. But then Morpheus also gives a speech where he's like, I was looking at my mirror one day, and I could see the code. And I was also like, wait, agents have like free time? Like, I like a lot came at me at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still don't know if I can put all of that together. By the end of the movie, it didn't totally matter if I understood all of it, but I understood enough of it.
Well, he's not an agent is the thing, remember?
Yeah, he's not an agent.
Yeah, so that's probably why like he was able to see that. This version of Morpheus is what do they call him? I don't even know what he was called.
Well, he is a program.
Yes,
he is a program embodying Morpheus, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, like, Neo was fucking around with him. And, like, because Neo says, like, no, that was an experiment when he's talking about how he made Morpheus, like, an agent very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I'm trying to, like, what was Morpheus before that? That's the one thing I'm kind of stuck on a little bit.
I mean, probably just another program that existed, like, in the confines of a system somewhere, right? But
yeah.
The events of this film, like, this version of Morpheus got trapped in the modal, I think, by the analyst, which we'll get to eventually.
Well, like, they're literally in a computer program within a computer program, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that kind of ends up being the gag of the first scene. Like they jacked into not just the Matrix, but, like, this weird Matrix in the Matrix, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, almost unintentionally. And that's what's kind of fascinating. Dreams within dreams, man. We're having another Monica Bellucci dream.
Who is not in this film.
Yeah,
which makes it bad.
Why would she stick around with that fucking guy?
Oh, you have no idea. I was the loudest person in the theater when...
Oh, I was dying. I think people maybe just forgot.
God. We'll get there, but
who
holy
the funky
shit.
Frenchman was for a minute. But, and then, so after that scene, we get our introduction with Thomas Anderson, where it turns out he's a video game developer who has made a series of video games called Binary, I believe.
No, they're called The Matrix. He's working on a new game called Binary when he is pulled aside by his partner, not to speed things up, but this is my recollection of the film. He's pulled aside by his partner, played by Jonathan Groff, who is the new Smith.
Yeah.
And that's when he tells Neo that Warner Brothers is going to pull their contract if they don't make a new Matrix game.
If there's another complaint I think I'm shocked I haven't heard more of, is that the movie's editing does a lot to, like, spell out what's happening in some scenes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like we meet new Smith and then we're literally getting edits back to the original Smith, you know?
Yeah, and
that happens a lot.
I want to give a shout out to the performances of new Morpheus and new Smith, because they're not just doing, like, riffs.
They're not doing impressions.
Yeah.
You know? And the funny thing is that Morpheus will, like, do an impression of Morpheus and be like, "No, that was kind of corny." Like,
yeah, but he's like excited about it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Jonathan Groff's sole moment as, like, the original Smith is his opening scene where he's paraphrasing a line from the fictionalized game version event of The Matrix, and he's like, "Man, that was great, huh?" And then that's it. For the rest of the film is Jonathan Groff.
Jonathan Groff did a great job. I like that he took the character in a different direction. Man, that one, like, was teed up to just bring Hugo Weaving back. You know? Like, oh, goddamn. I really missed the guy. You know?
Yeah, I missed him too. I don't know if he works here. I mean, maybe Hugo Weaving just works everywhere because he's that good. But, like,
no, it would have worked. It would have worked. I'm not going to go too hard on it, but it would have worked.
Okay. Well, because, like, the new villains in this, like, the old agents are, like, very much, like, the heteronormative, like, masculine, all business, no pleasure baddies. Whereas in this film, they're kind of like neoliberals.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but like they put Smith in a position where if they are going to continue these films, which they absolutely don't have to, but they totally could. He's now the Vegeta of the franchise.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just would love to see Hugo Weaving do that. Like, just with everything he got to do throughout the 3 other Matrix movies, he's all over the place.
That's true. That's true.
You know, so I would love to see his take on like Vegeta Smith. You know, not that he knows who Vegeta is, but. Like, you know, what if Smith starts to settle down with someone, you know? Like, wouldn't that be fun to see?
Yeah. I mean, I guess anything could happen.
They could keep him evil because there's kind of, like, that inherent, like, tension between him and Neo, but, like, I'd be down for it. But that's just like a
Did you
nerd.
also get, like, sexual tension between them in this?
Oh, no, that one's, like, it's, like, not even, like, it's basically text in this version.
Yeah, okay.
In the other version, it's subtext. Here it's just like, oh, okay, we're going all in.
Yeah.
But hey, what's the deal with the one other programmer guy? He's like, dude, she's a total MILF. That guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that is an agent, right?
Is it? Well, because there's the weird thing where, like, there's agents, but there's now also these weird, like, sleeper agents, you know? Like, the people where their eyes kind of just glow.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell if they were programs or people.
I think those are programs.
Okay. All right. It feels a little important to me that he's the one that kind of instigates the conversation between Neo and Trinity in their other forms, you know?
Yeah.
What's that about?
That's one question I have, too.
All right.
I don't know. I don't have an answer yet. Because as he is revealed to be a baddie, or maybe he's not. Did he turn into a member of the Swarm?
I don't remember seeing him in the Swarm, but there's a line in it where Bugs is like, look, he's coming here right now with agents. Remember? She says that,
that's right, yeah.
But again, I don't know if, like, again, it could, especially when we get these ideas of, like, Thomas Anderson's RSI is completely different than what we see. You know, he's like a weirdo old man, kind of. Mm-hmm. And maybe agents in this version of the Matrix just don't look like agents to people, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's also the line.
He kind of had a vibe where he's like, dude, I'm bringing hot chicks over or some shit. Like...
Yeah, and it
again, I've only seen it once at this point. Like, I'm looking forward to rewatching it so I can, like, pick up on some more of these details.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that was, like, the most, like, exciting part of the movie, at least, because I really had no idea, like, if it was gonna... It, like, convinced me for a moment, like, is this just gonna be a movie about a guy who might be crazy, you know? Mm-hmm. Which is just shocking that happened. I didn't expect it to get there as a movie. Also, I think you either said it on the episode or you said it after we finished recording that you had heard the trailers for the new Matrix were only showing, like, stuff from the first half of the movie, and that ended up being true. There was a lot that was not in any of the trailers.
Yeah, there is a lot, I gotta say, in the second trailer that is from the back half of the movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that first one really holds the cards close to its chest. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That second trailer, I saw a lot of people criticizing that one for, like, man, it's telling you everything. I had no fucking idea what the movie was about still. So, no, it didn't.
Well, some people, I think, were maybe putting on airs a little bit, being like, oh shit, we all know where this is going.
Yeah, and it's like, no, I guess there was a leak of the script.
Oh, okay.
A while back, and thankfully I didn't catch any of that. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't have read it, just because this is one I definitely wanted to go into, like, completely blind.
Yeah, same. I tried to avoid, it was kind of like Force Awakens, where I was trying to avoid everything all over again, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I just didn't want to be spoiled on it. Although now it's funny where people are describing the plot to people who haven't seen it, and people are like, are you serious? That's what Matrix 4 is about? where it's like, because there's literally a scene where it says Warner Brothers is making us do this, which out of context that sounds crazy, and in context it's pretty fucking crazy, but it's a different kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to go through a beat by beat plot synopsis of this.
No, because it throws a lot at you. But
I just want to get those
make clear
first few
that
scenes out, because that was where it was like crazy for me.
Yeah, but I also want to say just really quick that the film flows really well.
Oh yes.
Like
I did not realize this movie was nearly 2.5 hours long.
It felt under 2 hours for me.
It felt like a clean 2 hour movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and once the end game stuff starts like settling in, they're like, okay, this is the plan. We're all got to work together, yada yada yada. I was like, oh man, this is shorter than I thought it was gonna be. Mm-hmm. And no, it was long. I got home like at 2 a.m, but but like I was happy about it.
Yeah, you're fucking texting me, idiot.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What do I want to bring up first? I mean, I just really loved Bugs. I think Jessica Henwick's going to be like a superstar.
Yeah. Again, another reason why I would be open to sequels is I would like to see more Bugs. You know?
Yeah.
Again, like, I don't need them, but I also really didn't need Matrix 4 either. Mm-hmm. Like, and what we got is great.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big concern for me. It's like, how do you do another one without, like, sacrificing the integrity of Revolutions, which honestly is still probably, like, runner-up my favorite. At this point still. Like, I fucking loved revisiting Revolutions. And they did it. You know, because, I mean, like, think about, like, the rise of Skywalker. Like, I would heavily argue Force Awakens doesn't undo anything from Return of the Jedi. Whereas Rise of Skywalker's like, no, we are bringing the Emperor back. And it totally dilutes, like, the power of Return of the Jedi if you, like, care about Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker was an attempt to destroy Star Wars. It was a war crime committed in front of all of our eyes, and we just let it happen. Yeah. So
it's the 9/11 of cinema, some might say.
Some might say that.
I mean, it's no mistake that COVID-19 was created the same time The Rise of Skywalker was released.
Well, I think we've all heard that COVID was created in a lab, much like Snoke, that vat of Snoke's.
Yeah, that was COVID-19.
Snovid-19. Snokevid-19.
Yeah, you know, that's all real.
It's all connected. Facts. It's exactly what happened. Rise of Skywalker destroyed the American Empire, which actually makes it the greatest film ever made when you really think about it. Rise of Skywalker Redemption arc.
Nope. Nope. Yeah, I loved Bugs. Yeah. Jessica Henwick turned down a role in Shang-Chi to be in this film.
Fucking good choice.
That makes her a genius.
Good choice, Henwick. Because guess what? I already forget. I don't even know who the lead's name was in.
Yeah, like, I guess she would have been the Awkwafina character? Or maybe the sister?
Maybe the sister who got nothing to do. Uh-huh. Or Awkwafina who got nothing to do. Mm-hmm. Or the lead who got nothing to do.
Yeah, so good choice. Because I was like, okay, look, I gotta be honest. If I have another criticism about this movie, I don't really know her crew. Like, I don't need it to be like as
but we didn't really get to know Switch film. Either in fucking Matrix 1.
No, true. But, like, you know, Tank and Dozer, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I love those guys. And I was like, no! You know? Like, when that scene happened in the first film.
I think we get enough. But again, I think the thing we're missing is there's no Joey Pants. Like, we talked about that in Matrix 1, where, not that there needs to be the betrayer or someone like that, but you need the Han Solo of it, you know?
I don't know if you need it, but I will totally admit to thinking that exact quote that you mentioned on the podcast. I was like, fuck, there's none of that here. Which is fine. The movie's not going for that.
I'm not saying, like, it has to go for that. I'm just saying if you want to make the crew a little more endearing, it helps to have that one guy. I think now, like, certain people are just so opposed to a character like that, because now because the Marvel movies are just all characters like that, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, half the Guardians crew is like that, so...
Yeah.
I get why, but, like, it'd be nice to have just the one guy. But then again, like, nowadays, like, comedy writing in these movies is so fucking bad, you know?
Yeah.
Not this one. I actually thought the comedy worked really well here. I like the whole scene. Funny. I like the whole scene where the guy's like, here's what I'm talking about, bullet time. Like, I thought that was really funny.
Oh, yeah. Though, I mean, I want to keep talking about Bugs' crew because, like, there's some incredible science fiction concepts here that I always wanted to see tackled, and that made me excited.
Yeah.
Like, to such a monumental degree. Like, that's why this is, like, my favorite movie of the year. But to go back to your point about the pitch meetings in the fictional video game company, the utter stroke of genius is showing those people make the same points on very clearly different days in different outfits, and that totally gets you into like the monotonous life of Neo trapped in this fucking hellscape that is corporate America.
Yeah. I bet you all those characters have names that are based on real people that the Wachowskis had to deal with.
Oh, 100%. I mean, shout out to our girl Christina Ricci from
Oh yeah,
Speed
it was
Racer.
like in it for 2 seconds.
Yeah, as a character named Gwen DeVere. That doesn't mean anything. It's just like that's a funky name. That's also I believe an anagram of.
It was nice
Guinevere.
to see. It's nice to see her. She kind of took a break for a little bit.
Yeah, and like she comes in, she does her job. That's all you need, right?
Yeah.
But I like their characters. Like, you know, our position is we need something original, fresh, and exciting as we head into making The Matrix 4. Like, that's how these people talk.
Yeah.
These are absolute. I mean, that's how you motherfuckers talk. That's how I talk about stuff. I like
that's how we
like
talk
the
on the
sequel.
podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is almost like a fuck you to everyone that like gets obsessive over the Matrix.
Yeah. Which is why I do think it's a little cynical, but like it's cynical about the right things, because like we'll get into it, but the movie's ultimately about like, no, like art can be used to like control you and make people like subjugated in their comforts of nostalgia, but your relationship with art and like its power to move you and like inspire, like that's like a wholesome good thing, and you need to have the ability to create for yourself, and like just, you know, don't settle for comfort, like embrace the challenge.
Don't just settle for sitting in a bathtub with a rubber ducky on your head.
Yeah, you know, like you too can fly away with your awesome motorcycle riding girlfriend.
Or what you're saying is people should jump off that fucking roof.
No. No.
There's no hope for creativity in Hollywood, so you better fucking jump, idiot.
No.
Wow,
No, that's
Diego, I didn't
okay.
expect you to endorse something like that, but
No, boy.
first Joss Whedon, now this. I can't
Whoa,
believe it.
whoa. Well, Joss Whedon was the character. What's the fucking not Chad? Jude.
Which one's Jude?
That was the dude, his assistant, who's like, oh, you know, man, I love The Matrix 4, or I love the Matrix trilogy. I grew up on it, like, and you just know the Wachowskis have heard those fucking loser geeks talk about their work like that constantly.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be like, oh, well, thank you, and then you hear it fucking 8,000 times.
Yeah, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with, like, thanking someone for, like, what they helped, like, bring into the world, but, you know, maybe talk to them like a human being, and I get the sense that this guy didn't ever talk to Neo like he was a human being.
Speaking of Joss Whedon, Neil Patrick Harris was good in this movie. But you never know with that guy.
You never know. You totally took me off guard. I was like, what do you mean speaking of, like, because he's a creep? And then I was like, that's fucking right, Dr. Horrible.
Remember Dr. Horrible?
Oh, yeah. That was high. I was riding that shit high back in the day.
It's the future of entertainment.
My bad.
They made it during the writer's strike. See, we don't need the system anymore, man. It's the future. Oh, Josh, you're going to go make an Avengers movie? Okay. So Joss Whedon's also a sellout. Add that to his list of crimes.
Look, I would absolutely sell out if someone offered me Avengers 8. Just, I want to make that clear. I
don't know if I would at this point.
It's a lot of money, dude.
Here's the thing. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but like I would also be like, yeah, but how much do I get paid, say, if I then give an interview where I call Disney Nazis and then get fired from the movie?
Get that pay or play contract.
Yeah, if I get a decent pay or play contract, it's like, okay, then maybe. I can sign on for 3 days, give an interview, and then I'm off the picture.
Well, okay, let's talk about Neil Patrick Harris. Because let me see, I need to find this fucking tweet. It was the funniest fucking thing on the planet. We can talk about it now. Mm-hmm. Esther Rosenfield tweeted about I can't fucking find the tweet. I think she might have deleted it, so I might have to cut all this. But basically, the point was that, like, Neil Patrick Harris... Oh, here we go. Finally. Fuck. I don't know why it took so long. I gotta say, casting the ultimate white, gay assimilationist as a therapist who keeps Neo repressed and blind with blue pills and who says, "You seem very triggered," is like, fuck, that's brilliant. That was tweeted in September of 2021. And then the day of release, after her viewing of the picture, she quote tweeted herself and said, "Ha ha 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 ha." To which I agree. That is very funny. And I'm willing to bet that hiring 2 openly gay actors as the villains of this film was completely intentional.
I think so, yeah. I think that was definitely part of it.
And I mean, like, there's a very obvious, like color symbolism with the analyst character. But the blue horn-rimmed glasses are, like, it's so simple, but it's so great.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he sucked. I will say there's something weird here where, like, there's, you know, he's saying stuff like triggered. He named the one guy Chad. Like, you know, there's all this stuff where, like, Neil Patrick Harris is also kind of like the guy who didn't understand the Matrix, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the guy who uses red pill, blue pill to mean different things. And it's fascinating they gave him all this dialogue that he calls them sheeple in the movie.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake. Like, it feels like if to me some of that felt like Lana giving the people, the red pill MRAs, like enough rope to hang themselves. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that she's giving them enough stuff that then they'll come out of it and be like, no, see, here's how this movie also agrees with my MRA agenda, but then they're just going to look like idiots.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's very, like, on the nose, and I think this character needed to be, but, like, the analyst is, like, very openly misogynist.
Yes.
And, like, I mean, not only almost kills Trinity, like, 3 separate times, but, like, he's very clearly, like, just, like, being the most disrespectful piece of shit ever.
He's the new power elite. He's the new, like, intersection of all these different things that are just built to uphold white supremacy again, you know?
Yeah, you know, and it's, like, what the fuck was that one dude that, the gay dude who was also, like, basically a Nazi?
Oh, there's a few of them. I mean...
Okay, well, I get the implication that Lana saw some of that happening and was like, yeah, that's basically the new version of Cypher, right? Like, it's no longer... I mean, it's still there, but she already tackled, like, the heteronormative, like, masculine toxicity in these systems. Like, yeah, of course those fuckers are, like, dangerous, but who else tends to be a little dangerous are, like, the people that, like, kind of betray, like, other members of their community.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's the thing about, like, why groups stay in power, where, like, they always start letting more groups in, you know, to uphold their supremacy.
Yeah, I mean, well, that is also, like,
that's much just a historic truth, you know.
Yeah, it's a historic truth, but on, like, a much broader spectrum right now. It's like, you know, centrist Democrats. It's like, we just need to work with both sides, and it's like, it's very clear. No, you don't.
Yeah.
The other side doesn't give a shit about you, anyways.
But it's also the thing of, like, you know, there's definitely a movement right now to try and scare the hell out of the gay community, being like, well, if you guys stick by the trans community, you're going to lose your rights, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's putting gay people in a very difficult position of being like, it's trying to scare the hell out of some of them and be like, well, look, like, I won my battle, and now I just want it to be fucking over, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, but then some people are like, no, we got to help the other people over. And then there are some who are just rich and successful and kind of use their diversity to get where they are, and now they're afraid that their diversity is not that important anymore, you know? And that it will be usurped by the new thing that will be kind of, you know, which it's just the cycles. It sucks that it just keeps happening.
I
know?
mean, like, think about, like, Caitlyn Jenner, you know? And it's like,
yeah,
she made, like, the cover of magazines for, like, her ability to be, like, openly a trans woman. And it's like, yeah, that's fantastic. Now, unfortunately, she's a god-awful human being.
Yeah. Like, actually killed a person bad.
Like, yeah, also that, yeah. And that's just, like, it's so unfortunate, because then those same communities that she inhabits on the conservative side of things are like, well, she's the good one.
Yeah.
Everyone else, that's why we can't let them in. And it's like...
Oh, God, what's that Onion headline There's an Onion headline. I can't remember. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it was like, I think it says something like black pundit who says there's no police brutality problem getting a lot of TV air today. Like, so if you're the one, if you're the one guy of your community who's actually like, no, racism is over, you're going to get on TV a lot more. Mm-hmm. Like, there's definitely like an economic angle to all of it,
Yeah.
It's 100% just the like, I have a black friend thing. I have a gay friend thing,
Mm-hmm.
A little early, I think. I think a few people are not ready to say I have a trans friend yet, but we'll get there,
yeah.
I mean, also, that's what fucking Dave Chappelle just tried to do.
Yeah, and then the unfortunate, terrible news out of that story too. I mean, apart from just Dave Chappelle being terrible person right now,
Mm-hmm.
That his supposed trans friend apparently passed away, and I that's just like so horrible.
Yeah.
To use her as a shield, and she's no longer even with us.
Yeah, now the person who can't say anything you use as a shield.
Yeah. That's just so awful.
Yeah. It's not right to really ever do that.
It's just like that's like the worst version of it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
And I know a lot of people wanted the Matrix to be like more like the trans narrative to be.
Well, that was the other thing, is that people are coming out of this movie being like, oh God, Matrix is woke now, which is like a laughable statement, right?
Yeah.
But I was also like, oh man, is like fucking Neo just going to stand up and scream trans rights or some shit? Like, and it didn't even do that. Like, it was entirely in line with the other movies,
But like, to the film's credit, Neo is literally trapped in this new version of the Matrix, forced to make a game called Binary until he's forced to redesign the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, it's still not subtle.
But it's also not like, I was expecting someone to be like, and that's why Trump was a problem or something. I thought like there was going to be like an extreme like one-to-one real world thing.
Oh yeah, no.
And that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And like, look, like if someone's still like not happy with the Matrix not going openly far enough in terms of like trans rights and like LGBT rights, like that's like an understandable complaint at this point. Less so, I would argue, on the film, more just on like
culture in general.
Yeah, and the film industry
sadly, being
shitty.
We're not going to get a story like this for a while, I think, that is even subtextually about these things. Mm-hmm. Which is the way Hollywood is right now. Which is a bummer, but that's just where we're at. But who knows? I really, what? I say these things. I get on here and I'd be like, man, I don't like the direction culture's heading. And then I'm like, motherfucker, I have no idea where it's going to be 5 years from now. Mm. Like, who knows? It could do a 180. And then I'm like, man, I'm getting overwhelmed with this stuff that agrees with me entirely. So, who fucking knows?
I did remember hearing that Bugs, the Jessica Henwick character, might have been non-binary. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that played out in the film, unfortunately, but I remember a lot of buzz about that going. That's like the one thing I heard about going in that I was like, oh, that's kind of exciting. And
there was definitely, yeah. I will say, some of the other crew members definitely kind of were like, just like not even coded non-binary, like you could just tell, like without but hey, I got to talk about the one prediction that I almost made that would have been right.
Okay.
But I think there is some evidence of it if it stayed on the recording Diego uploaded. I'm not sure because that episode's not uploaded yet. But do you remember when we were talking about Matrix Revolutions and I said something like, I almost had Matrix 4 spoiled for me?
Yes.
Right? And that was because while we were talking about Sati in Matrix Revolutions, I'm like, wait a minute. Is that one woman in the trailer going to be like a grown-up Sati in the movie? I thought that to myself, and then I wanted to go to the Matrix Resurrections wiki to see if that had already been announced. And then when I got there, I saw that the whole plot was up there, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to read this. And then that's when I came back and I said, but I was going to make that prediction. Now, I still don't know if that was already out there beforehand.
It was.
God damn it.
Yeah, but that's a pretty good prediction. And you know what? stuff I knew going in like that completely left my mind because I was so wrapped up in the movie. And so when they do that, like that mirror shot in that pool of water, and then it cuts back up to her, and then it cuts to the footage of the little girl from Revolutions, it really got me emotional. Like, it just totally took me back to when I first saw that. Like, I'm not made of stone. Nostalgia does work.
Yeah.
You know? Like, not like crying or like choking up, but I was just like, oh man, I feel like warm and fuzzy. Like, I don't know. It was a very strange feeling to have as the characters are like trying to figure out whether or not they'll have a future.
Yes.
So,
but more important than
I
that,
thought she was good too. I don't know what that actress's deal is. Priyanka Chopra Jonas.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she's the one married to the Jonas brother, but I don't know. She was good.
She is good in this movie. But hey, the Merovingian's back.
Yeah, fucking, I was like, oh yeah.
And he looks like a caveman.
I was so happy.
That made me laugh really hard. That was very funny.
Okay, this is related to the Merovingian making a comeback. Who the fuck was cut from this movie? Daniel Bernhardt.
Yeah, he got cut.
Who I hyped up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he got
Sadly.
cut. He was going to be one of the exiles. When he was fighting Neo, he was supposed to say, "I remember you," and then it would have cut back to the reloaded footage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, I guess you didn't need that, but also, it's just one scene.
Yeah, it would have been interesting, but
yeah, I mean that's just for like the direct-to-video action nerds like me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason I wanted that.
I will say there's more effort here to make the audience understand that the Merovingians' exiles are like monster people than there were in the other two Matrix movies.
Yeah, they look like characters out of like a Takashi Miike film.
Yeah, it was great.
I was like, this is like a weird look for a major studio movie, and I loved it.
And I've got to say this. I think if you didn't rewatch the Matrix sequels like right before this movie, I could understand if then you had a problem following this, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that helped both of us because like we were primed for it. So then when it wasn't as crazy, it was a little easier. But yeah, if this is like, haven't watched them in forever, I'm going in clean, you're probably not going to know what the fuck's happening in this movie. Mm-hmm. Especially when they mention the architect but don't show him, so that's interesting. They showed everyone else.
The architect and the Oracle are
dead.
No more.
Everyone's
they
dead.
got wiped out. That was kind of sad, honestly.
I can't believe.
I mean, like you don't even need them for the story.
I can't believe they ruined the Matrix. I can't believe they ruined it, Diego, by saying none of that fighting mattered. That's all that movies are about. That's all it's about. Who won the battle?
Also, the film explicitly makes the point that it did matter.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so we get those little robot buddies. We forgot to mention them.
I was talking about how much I love Bugs and her crew. I loved them so much, and it was like, no, look, like I know it feels like change didn't like happen, like progress wasn't made, but now the sides aren't mankind against the machines. It's like,
well, they want to be called sentience now. They put that out there. Like,
yeah. Like that machines also have the possibility of choosing free will, which is something I brought up in our Revolutions discussion. And so that just, I was so happy. And I was incredibly happy about
of course, we also have that there are also programs that are now want to be like individual and free, you know? Which is great. All the sci-fi stuff of that was just kind of awesome. And
yeah, that was so fucking good. And because, you know what? This is, again, something that I saw going in like months in advance that I just totally forgotten about. The image of the new Morpheus program kind of floating around with like those digital beads or whatever.
Yeah.
I had seen that like in a teaser and I was like, what the fuck is that? And then I just left my mind. And then when I saw it again, I was like, oh, that's right. Oh my God, I'd totally forgotten. And he's like in the real world a lot.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And then you get like this image of this little old lady and her partner who is a program, and it was just like, I just never thought I'd see like sci-fi stuff like this for a long time.
It was a lot of fun. Like that was just pure like sci-fi fun. And I will say I didn't really get mention it hard enough. I think the real reason I like the Matrix sequels is because it's about what it would be like if you were just talking to computer boys all day. Those little program guys. And then now it's like we got program guys and we got robot guys. So I'm like super happy. So yeah, that just kind of made me happy as a person watching it.
Yeah.
But on top of that, Hey Niobe's back.
Yeah, and you know what? That's some of the best old age makeup I've ever seen.
I know, it's really good. It made me wonder if it's like a mix of makeup and CGI. Like if they maybe smoothed it out a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like what's the best like version of that? It's like, I know people think Hank Pym and Ant-Man looks really good. I don't think that one actually held up that well, apart from the theater.
Well, that's de-aging, isn't it?
You're right. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Like, genuine old age make. Midnight Mass, I think, had really great old age makeup.
Midnight Mass did a really good job. You know what? We got to bring up our old buddy here as I think a really good example of a mix of just old age makeup and deformed makeup. Fucking, I can't remember the guy's name, but
from Prometheus?
No, that looked terrible. But
yeah, okay, that's why I was shocked. I was like, no, that's the bad one.
We're in the same director though. From same director, different franchise.
Blade Runner?
No. Fuck.
Those are the only two franchises.
You're gonna make me look it up.
I am gonna make you look it up.
Gary Oldman. In
Darkest Hour?
Hannibal. As Mason
Oh my
Verger.
God.
Play the clip.
Call down. Call down.
Call down! Call down!
Wow, I had forgotten about that. I guess that is technically old age makeup.
Yeah. So there's that. I'm glad I went on that detour.
Yeah.
Cordell.
That dude would be working with the machines.
100%.
Yeah. I liked Niobe. I didn't realize how much I liked her character until I saw her again.
Yeah.
But she's great, and I really like this continuing idea of her being like, no, I never believed in the one, but like I believed in people, and I believed in like Neo's ability to like save us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Neo's like true heroism was in like inspiring people to save themselves, which is like the point of revolutions. And this is kind of like another version of exploring that same idea where people still like worship Neo, and she's like, nah, I still don't believe in like that. Like that's like mumbo jumbo, but there's something like real in believing in your fellow people. And that's kind of like what inspired her to create like this new city, Io, because Zion got fucked up. Mm-hmm. It's gone. But honestly, this place looks way cooler. And, you know, that's not me like wanting something different from the sequels back in the day, because it's hindsight and shit. But I thought that was such a fascinating evolution where it's like, yeah, now we have the ability to actually like live underground apart from just survive.
I don't know if this means anything, because Io is clearly like Zion. You know, they took the two middle letters, right? Mm-hmm. But also, the machine city in the Matrix is called 01. And so part of me wonders if the name Io was chosen to like symbolize like that this is like a weird unity between those two factions, you know?
Oh, maybe. I did not catch that at all. That's interesting.
Well, I don't think they ever call it Machine City 01 in the movies. I think it's only in the Animatrix. So, but I could be wrong.
But hey, apparently all this stuff is actually interconnected, so...
Hey.
You never know.
I don't know if we need to, like I said, we don't really need to go into it. Although, I guess we got to give a special shout out to Carrie Ann Moss as Trinity.
Yeah. And she is gone for like an hour of the film. And I didn't realize it was an hour because the movie was paced so well. So that's not even a criticism. I just thought that was interesting because it's not like she's a cameo role. She is a performance in this. And the heart of the film.
It gets a little worrying when, like, she did disappear for a little bit. Like, you never know what the fuck's going to happen there. And then, like, literally it's about rescuing her as, like, an object almost, but then, like, it totally goes the other way, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, even before, like, the actual final confrontations, like, the conflict is pivoted to, like, it has to be what she wants, though. Like, we can do as much as we can from here, but her choice is going to be her choice, and we're going to have to live with that.
And I do like...
And Neo's, like, willing to die for her to just have the choice. And, like, that is such a beautiful sentiment.
I do like that the machines have tapped into the idea that, like, they're going to basically weaponize Trinity and Neo's love for each other against them, you know? Which seems like the exact logical next step of their, like, system of control, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Neil Patrick Harris's whole, like, monologue is like, oh, like, my predecessor was, like, facts, and it's like, you know, people don't really care about facts. Like, that's the most one-to-one comparison we can talk about with criticisms of conservative ideologies in the real world.
Yeah, but here's the thing about that. This is why I think some people are just out of depth with what's going on. Like, everyone agrees with that sentiment right now, right?
Well...
Like, no, here's the thing. Everyone agrees with it. Like... It's just we all disagree on the facts, you know? Like, we all...
right.
We all think that we are the ones that are actually figuring it out, you know? That's been the weird thing about this era, is that, like, now no one can really be sure, but we all think we're the right ones. And that's what he's tapping into this time, you know? Like, just weaponizing, like, that we're not really looking for an answer, but we're looking for our certainty, you know?
Yeah. It's like, what's more certain and comforting than nostalgia?
I mean, hey.
I mean, like, wasn't there that, like, research, like, a bunch of research, actually, about, like, how people were watching, like, The Office, like, to a detrimental degree on Netflix?
Well, yeah, that was why it was, like such a big deal when it left. You know?
Yeah, and then there were, like, studies about, like, hey, that's, like, a sign of, like, really poor mental health.
Yeah, because we're all we're all in a real bad shape.
I know, no, I'm not even criticizing it. I did that. I'm just saying, like... Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute, Diego, are you trying to get at something with the fact that I've been watching Miami Vice so much?
Oh, no, I've seen that movie, like, literally 50 times. Like, you're good.
Okay, but, like, is 50 times within a year? How's that on the scale of... Because everyone knows I'm a superly chill, mentally healthy person.
Well, think of it this way.
I'm never, like, just, like, accidentally showing a side of myself on the online sphere because I'm just constantly going through it.
You know, I once watched Bad Boys 2 11 times in a week.
I know.
I felt like I got beaten up with baseball bats.
Now, where does watching She-Ra and the Princess of Power a ton as an adult man fit into all that?
Oh, yeah, I got nothing. But that was a great show.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah, but, like, you were watching it and then, like, you couldn't function as a person because you were so emotionally devastated by the show. And then you can't tell your therapist that fucking that show is what got you.
You know, I don't have an answer for that.
But I think the answer is, we've already agreed upon it, is that I'm super, super mentally well. I'm actually the most mentally well person on this entire platform.
Yeah.
Everyone else is fucked up. I'm cool. I'm fine.
Yeah, no, you're cool as a cucumber.
It's exactly what my therapist implies. I'm not saying they say that. They might say things that sound like the exact opposite. But what they're implying is that I'm really chill and cool and everyone loves me. And that there's not a bunch of residual trauma left over from years and years of bad shit. I'm glad we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
That was a great motorcycle chase at the end of this thing.
I've seen some criticism about that. I thought it was
fun.
Like the fight.
I thought it was fun.
I thought the fight, like, in the bullet train was it got a little messy. Again, which is, like, I understand that's the point. Also, it's a little hard to keep track of certain things. But then it was awesome when that person went flying out the busted, like, side door. Was great. So, like, who gives a shit? Like, the only other movie that's done that is, like, the Wolverine for some reason, which I still think is really good. But, like, yeah, bullet trains are fucking awesome. Yeah. Set more fights on them. But to go back to your point, yeah, the motorcycle chase is, like, super fun.
I will say, I think the thing where I was talking about how, like, you could tell there might have been, like, some COVID problems when filming this is that, like, Io feels like maybe 5 people live there.
I I won't say who because I don't know if they want to be mentioned, but I've been having a lot of actually very fruitful discussions about this film, like privately with friends, both in real life and online. And I would agree with the viable criticism that, like, the Matrix doesn't really feel as inhabited.
Yeah.
Which is, like, again, maybe the point because this is, like, a Matrix specifically meant to, like, keep Neo and Trinity.
I'm fine with the Matrix doing any of that. Like, that's, like, whatever. Like, the Matrix, you could cheat at fucking everything in the Matrix, for me.
Yeah, you know, it's all about perspective and perception. Now, I also do agree with you that IO feels a little small.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to spend more time there.
Especially, and like, I think a lot of that is just post-Matrix sequels where Zion was such a big part of it, you know? And it was like, that was like such a huge city. But yeah, IO, it's just like, it's like 2 sets. You know, like, it was, which is, you know, and hey, they're maybe working with a small budget. COVID's given a lot of restrictions. It worked. It functioned well. You know, like this wasn't really a movie about IO.
Yeah, so. It's not so much a point against the film or a mark against the film. It's just like it's just a little noticeable.
It's something holding a lot of movies back lately. Like I've seen a lot of movies lately that are supposed to be bigger than they actually are. But I have been kind of fascinated with watching how different directors try to deal with it. Like, I think that's the main, like, possibly the only real reason I like Green Knight. Like, I was just kind of fascinated.
No, I agree. I think Green Knight's great. I like this significantly more than Green Knight. Mm-hmm. But, like, Green Knight, look, to be honest, it's going on, like, my best of the year list for sure. But, like, I get reservations.
Well, here's the thing. I was just attracted to just how well I thought Green Knight was done as a movie, considering probably its limitations of budget. And I think I'll be revisiting it for those reasons. But then the more I thought about it, I also realized I could probably get the exact same thing out of Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Last Temptation of Christ.
No. No, that's all the thematic stuff I didn't really give a shit about. But, like, I truly didn't. But,
okay.
I just thought it was like, oh, wow, this is like a fun little medieval fantasy movie. But what I'm saying is, like, Monty Python: The Search for the Holy Grail is like a well-done medieval low-budget movie, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, you can watch the movie and be like, wow, this actually looks pretty good for what it is. And, of course, partly is that it's because it's fucking Terry Gilliam, like, gearing up to be, like, a revolutionary director. And then and then Terry Gilliam now is gearing up to be a revolutionary asshole. But, you know, I interested. Green Knight was interesting. That Green Knight looked cool.
Yeah, it would be shocking if a film of that budget didn't get, like, nominated for Best VFX, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what'll happen, though.
No, that did happen.
Oh, really? It already happened?
It didn't make it onto the Oscar shortlist. And
oh, yeah, because Oscars are so weird, because they, like, nominate, like, movies that came out last year, you know? Mm-hmm. Like Judas and the Black Messiah and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
And then it was really good.
Well,
but it was
that should be a moment where we're all like, oh, yeah, the Oscars are marketing.
Oh, no, it totally is. That's why all the Marvel stuff is on the short list and not Green Knight. Mm-hmm. But, like, it is just, like, shocking that people haven't, like, figured out the scam yet on, like, a huge scale.
Well, again, like...
And, like, look, I like Oscar watch parties and stuff like that. You know, it's, like, fun to get invested in, like, certain, like, things. Like a sporting event, you know? Like, sports doesn't matter. But it's kind of fun.
Yeah. And you know what's kind of fun? This movie.
Yeah. It's really fun.
Really fun.
It's, if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. No, it's fine. I probably, like, think less of you, though, if I'm being honest.
I don't know how I'm going to feel about this going forward. Totally.
I've realized that I'm getting very defensive about the Matrix movies.
Now, here's the thing, where it's like, I think Revolutions and Reloaded have found their place where I'm like, I'm going to love these forever. I don't know if Resurrection is going to be a movie where, like, am I going to be looking back kind of like how you look at Force Awakens a little bit right now, you know? Which is a movie I will defend and I still love, but also it had the wind taken out of its sails a little bit by Rise of Skywalker, you know?
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, why did I even bother investing that much into the sequel trilogy, you know? Mm-hmm. And, which I feel like I'll even feel differently about that in the coming years, but... like, I don't know if I'm going to feel the same way about Resurrections going forward. If it is just going to be kind of like, you know what, it's a nice little epilogue to, like, let's check in on the characters. If it's going to be like Toy Story 3, you know, a sequel that no one really needed. But if we're going to have it, I mean, That's good enough, you know. But you know, will that lead to just more of that going forward? Are we gonna get another Matrix fucking 15 years from now that just kind of does a similar thing? Or is this the start of a new trilogy that will also be just as fascinating? I don't know.
And controversial.
Yeah, I don't know. And also, like, now that this, I think this is going to get, it's going to be better received than I think the sequels were in their time. Will this now lead to a backlash against the movie?
Maybe. We should note that it's rocking a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes. Nice. So, like, most people are enjoying it.
Yeah. I think anyone that's not enjoying it was just, like, already not going to enjoy it. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, like I mentioned, I went back to some old YouTube people that I used to watch, and, like, I checked out some dude who I won't name because who I've met in person. They're, like, a nice, respectable guy, but their movie takes are, like, dog shit now. But, like, they mentioned, like, No Way Home was, like a triumph for movies. And then when they went to talk about The Matrix Resurrections, they were like, you know, why do the sequels have to get so complicated? Why couldn't they just tell a simple story like the first film? And it's like, okay, if you're approaching it from that angle, not only are you not going to like the movie, you're not meeting it on its own terms.
That's another thing people have to kind of separate is that, like, the fun you had watching the movie does not necessarily equal the quality of the film. You know, I believe that guy probably had a lot of fun watching Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the movie is that good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we're like shit talking No Way Home. Like,
I
could watch it and be like, no, this is the best Marvel movie.
We could both end up. It probably won't happen, but
no, I mean, like, yeah, because Far From Home is one of the worst movies ever released in American cinemas. But, like, you know, anything's possible, I guess. Unlike Matrix Resurrections, which also proves that anything is possible, and that even though love is the thing that conquers all, you do have to fight for it, as Keanu Reeves told Drew Barrymore on her talk show. And then he got a standing ovation, because he's right, and he's Keanu Reeves.
To quote the Beastie Boys, you gotta fight for your right to party.
No.
Hey, look, we gotta stop now because my laptop's about to die. So, Diego, Where can the people find you?
You can find me at Diego Crespo. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon. There's nothing right now, but you could do that. Matt, where can the people find
Emperor
you now?
OTN1, Twitter, you know where.
All right. Well, I see we're reversing the roles here, much like the film reversed the roles of Neo and Trinity in the finale, and Trinity's the one who saves the day in a way, and she ascends to godlike status.
She flew, and then they changed the sky a little bit, and then yay.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, just before we lose you, the message of the film is that, like, kind of anyone can, like, attain that power that Neo had, that anyone's capable of that. It's not just the one, it's, like, everyone. I don't know, I just found that really moving.
Yes. Other people are talking better about the themes of this than us, so
go check out. There's a bunch of great writing out there. I will straight up tell people not to listen to, like, the 1 stars, because, like, they're probably coming at it from a bad place. Like, you don't have to love it, but if you don't, that's okay too. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas. Hope you enjoyed this. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Peace.
Bye.
If you want to see Trinity again, fight for her!
I saw this in a dream. My dream ended here.
I still know Kung Fu.